Ken Thomas is a White House reporter for the Associated Press. He joins us now. Ken, the president appears optimistic. Senate Republicans still only have a two-seat majority. So how's the White House going to move forward on tax reform?
Well, they're glad that they got this budget resolution through the Senate. They viewed it as the first step in the tax reform process. But now the real hard work kicks in. We still don't have a bill. We still don't have a lot of specifics. And at this point, it's unclear if any Democrats are going to come on board to support a Republican-led bill.
And the president, we know, has had a rocky relationship with the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell. So addressing tax reform going forward, how are these two men going to work it out? Is there a sense?
Well, they met on Monday, and they came out and talked to us afterwards, and they've tried to put a good face forward on taxes, on other issues. But the problem is right now there are issues that Republicans are still unsettled on. One of the key ones is this deduction on state and local taxes that affects a lot of high tax states like New York, California, New Jersey. And there are a lot of members in the Republican Party who are concerned that it would lead to a tax increase for many middle-class families, and have said that at this point they can't support it.
What do you think the biggest hurdle will be when it comes to these tax reform negotiations?
I think it's getting to the specifics. You don't have much in the way of specifics at this point. We don't know exactly how the rates are going to work for individuals. I think there's a messaging problem that Republicans are going to face. They're basically saying that we need to, if we cut corporate tax rates, it's going to lead to more middle-class jobs. And you know, that's still a tough sell. I mean, you need people to be able to see that their bottom line will be affected, that they'll you know, really benefit from this. And then the other aspect is deficits. I mean, we don't know to what extent this could drive up the deficit. That could ignite some concerns within the Republican caucus.
Yeah, and December will be interesting to see how all that goes down. I want to ask you also, and turn quickly to the fallout over President Trump's call with the widow of a fallen Green Beret. Chief of Staff John Kelly, who, by the way, we all know is a Gold Star father, gave a very emotional defense of the president yesterday. Said he was stunned that a congresswoman was listening in, but the president is tweeting about it, so it didn't sort of put it to rest. He called the congresswoman Wilson wacky and said that she lied. Was General Kelly's statement supposed to end this controversy? What's the sense from the White House on this?
Well, this issue seems to keep going on. The South Florida Sun-Sentinel this morning put out a video of this speech that the Congresswoman gave in 2015, and it seems to contradict what General Kelly said in the White House briefing room yesterday. He was critical of her, saying in this speech back in 2015 that she took credit for the funding of an FBI facility down in South Florida. When you look at the video, it seems like she's talking about a bill that dealt with the naming of the building, and she noted in an interview today that the funding came in 2009 when she wasn't even in Congress yet. So this back and forth has just seemingly extended this issue now in its fifth day.
General Kelly appeared to have really chosen his words very carefully. He didn't dispute what the Congresswoman said, only how it was interpreted. What do you think that suggests? What was he trying to achieve there?
Well, I think he was trying to provide maybe a sense of moral clarity on this issue. It had gotten into the political realm, a lot of back and forth between the president and the Congresswoman, and I think the general has a lot of credibility on this as a Gold Star father. He obviously lost his son in Afghanistan in 2010. And I think what he was trying to do was bring it back to the sanctity of these men and women who give their lives to service and in some cases pay the ultimate price. The White House is trying to, I think, lower the temperature a bit on this issue and try to move on.
Meanwhile, Ken, Senator John McCain is threatening a subpoena to get more information on that attack in Niger. How is the White House working with lawmakers on this, and why are so many questions still unanswered?
So we heard from General Mattis yesterday, and he really didn't provide a lot of information. General Kelly was also asked about details, he seemed to indicate that he had some information, but he wasn't willing to share it at this point. There are a lot of questions right now, and you know, Senator McCain even raised the possibility of subpoenas, you know, trying to demand information. But at this point, they said that there's an investigation that's ongoing in the AFRICOM section, that information will then get relayed to the Pentagon. But there are a lot of unanswered questions. It's just we don't really know what happened in this case.
And Ken, I want to lastly get your take on comments that were made by both Presidents Obama and George W. Bush yesterday. I want to play you a clip from that.
The American dream of upward mobility seems out of reach for some who feel left behind in a changing economy. Discontent deepened and sharpened partisan conflicts. Bigotry seems emboldened. Our politics seems more vulnerable to conspiracy theories and outright fabrication.
Instead of our politics reflecting our values, we've got politics infecting our communities. Instead of looking for ways to work together and get things done in a practical way, we've got folks who are deliberately trying to make folks angry.
They didn't mention President Trump's name. Both had warnings about today's political climate. So how unusual is this to hear previous presidents critique the current sitting president? Very
unusual. The typical approach is that when you're a former commander-in-chief, former president, you stay out of the day-to-day scrum. You let the current president do his job and not get into the mix. And while you note that both Presidents Bush and Obama did not mention President Trump by name, it's hard to mistake who they were talking about. What's interesting about both of these cases is that they have different issues at play. President Bush, I think, is looking at a Republican Party that he doesn't really recognize anymore. There are a lot of issues on trade, on taxes, on deficits, and just the tone that's been put forth that seems odd and different for him. And I think he was trying to address that. President Obama is watching his agenda, his legacies dismantled, or at least attempted to be dismantled by this current president. And I think I was struck by just how he was trying to make a point about the tone that the current president has set without specifically naming Trump by name.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Ken Thomas joining us from the White House. Ken, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.